I'm Nisaini. To Troy, you're the only one that I don't know. I'm Nisaini. I'm the director of The Cycle. These are all of my amazing and incredibly talented and fearless interns right in front of you. They're gonna all introduce themselves if that's the platform that you have in place, Tom. But Troy, nice to meet you. Thank you for your time. And to The Cycle, this is Tom Tressler. He is the facilitator that the organization has worked with for X number of years around civic engagement and how do we merge? What does it mean to be civically engaged and involved while you go through your leadership and technological internship? Tom, I will turn it back to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, I'll share my screen and we can start our journey together. So my name is Tom Tressler, and I am a civic educator and public defender. I've been doing civic work in the city of Chicago for about 40 years. And this is the first of our 4 sessions of Civics 101. So this morning, for this session, we're going to run through a little bit of the mechanics of the tools that we're using to deliver the class. So everyone is on board with that. We'll go over the content that we'll be doing for these sessions and for your assignment, what is expected of you at the end of this time of our 4 sessions together. The session is being recorded and will be placed into the Civic Lab educational space, which you can see here. And the link has been sent to you, and we'll put it in the chat, but I can show it to you right now. So this is the web space. As you can see, it's civiclabhq.us. You see the place here, it says IC Stars. Cycle 48 has a space already dedicated to it. And on this space, you'll see a lot of links, including the schedule for our 4 sessions together. So that is available to you, and it holds a lot of material from past classes, which you can look at it at your desire. A lot of material around civics, leadership, and organizing from past sessions. But our time together is right here on this particular page. Now we're asking everyone to take a few minutes and go to this website right here for a quick survey. So if you haven't done that yet, please do so sometime today or the next little while. And it's a few questions that'll help me understand you a little better. That'll make me have a better sense of the class and maybe can make some adjustments and to share some information. The main thing we need to, for you to share is what is your burning issue, and we'll be discussing that in a little while when we do our introductions live. But please take a moment to go to visit that survey that at SurveyMonkey. It's the tool we use. Okay. All right. Now I'll put that into chat in just a minute. Now, there is somebody joining us who is actually not, I guess you could say, an official IC Stars intern, and that is Mr. Troy Gaston, and he'll get a chance to introduce himself in a minute. But Troy is a activist who's very busy and productive in social change movements right here in Chicago right now. And I've invited Troy to be, I guess you could say, a guest intern for the 4 sessions, and we'll explain a little bit more about that. But Troy will be with us for our 4 sessions, and I hope you guys get to know him and vice versa. Now, before we get into the full introductions for each person, taking a few seconds, I will introduce myself a little more fully by this little PowerPoint presentation that I put up in a tool called SlideShare. So I hope everyone is familiar with SlideShare because you're going to use it before the end of our sessions together. So this is me, this is my contact information, and we'll put that into the chat in a minute as well. My background is a little unusual. I started out as an actor here in Chicago. and became a theater producer. That image on the upper right is from a musical that I produced in a swimming pool at Truman College up in Uptown. But I was also working for a wonderful organization called People's Housing, where I created a community arts program that blended the arts, economic development, and microenterprise. I even worked for an internet startup in the late 90s called ourhouse.com, which was the online play for Ace Hardware. And that was in 1999. And we burned through $140 million in about a year and a half. And all I have to show for it is this T-shirt. But it's a fascinating experience that I'd be happy to share with you offline. But I've been an educator for many, many years. I've taught at 6 local universities with many classes around leadership, civics, and nonprofit management. And oh, I think we lost our, yeah, hold on, let's get back to that. There we go. That's what I wanted to be. Yeah. Yeah, right. Born in New York City, I've started or led 14 nonprofit enterprises in the arts and civic engagement and community development. My hobbies include photography, science fiction, and our garden. And I'm married for 29 years to this wonderful person there. You can see Merle, who may be short in stature, but she is mighty in spirit. These are the other classes I teach over the years. You can see quite a large portfolio of classes having to do with civics and policy. These are the nonprofits that I've started all the way back to 1974 with the New York Science Fiction Film Society. My civic work over the last few years has included the efforts to stop the privatization of Lincoln Park, No Game Chicago, which is a whole story in and of itself, where we organized to stop the Olympics from coming to Chicago. This was a fight that we did in 2009 when Chicago was trying to get the 2016 Olympics here. I actually ran for office in 2010. I was the Green Party candidate for Cook County Board President. I started a nonprofit called the Civic Lab in the spring of 2012. I published a book called Chicago is Not Broke a few years later. This is just some images of the wonderful things that happened at the Civic Lab, which was a physical space in the West Loop. It was a co-working space, and it was also a hacker space or a maker space for democracy. With Jonathan Peck, my colleague, we started the Power Institute, People Organizing to Win, Engage, and Resist, in June of 2017, and we offer workshops for people who want to be powerful in civic life. Civics 101, a series of workshops. We've trained about 1,000 people in the last few years. My burning issue is economic injustice. So when we ask people, what is your burning issue? We're trying to get from you, like, what is the thing that makes you really mad? Or what do you want to fight about? What do you stand up for? So for me, in very quick terms, it's economic injustice. And I'll share one funny fact with you. I used to be a hippie back in the day when I actually had hair. So there you go. All right, that's a little about me. So what we want people to do now, I will stop sharing my screen, and I will just call on folks as I see you in the Zoom screen. And what we'd like you to do, if you wouldn't mind, is to share a few things. We want, of course, your name, where you stay, some hobbies, some fun things that you love to do, and your burning issue. All right, so let's start with Mariah.
I had to bring my screen back up. Hello, how are you? So my name is Mariah Coleman. I just recently moved from the Inglewood neighborhood to Richton Park. My hobbies include spending family time. I like to color. I like to do hair. I like to go outside and be a kid with my kid. And I enjoy just sitting in my car having some self-care time, reflecting or whatever. And my burning issue is the I'm trying to figure out how to word it. The inequality of the education system, with the brown and black men and women. I feel like women are expected to excel and we might leave like the men behind. So I want to bridge the gap in some type of way with some type of non-traditional educational program or nonprofit. So I'm excited for this.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. And the first person who shares this is always hard. So yay. Appreciate it. Mohammed, welcome, sir. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Hey, Tom, how you doing? So my name is Mohammed Usman Naeem. I stay in Carroll Stream, Illinois. It's one of the western suburbs. And my hobbies are swimming. I used to play football, soccer, not American football. And for now, all my hobbies are kind of dead. I haven't been doing anything else. And my burning issue is just bridging the gap, like just, getting rid of the digital divide that we have, especially in the third world countries. And just like the basics, like there are still so many places in my hometown that they don't have clean running water. And that's something that I really want to work on, and I have been, but it's like I'm not being able to do enough. So I need to come up with something that's more effective, and which is for now that's about it.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Jessica.
Hello. My name is Jessica Straker. I live in Burbank, Illinois. My hobbies are reading. I love historical romances. All my reading is clean. I do like also I enjoy some autobiographies, usually about people that interest me. Even though I enjoy reading, I've discovered that when people sometimes suggest books, they don't interest me and I have a difficult time getting through those. My burning issues, and I said issues because there are a few, but currently what bothers me the most is I really feel like childhood is under attack. I feel as if a lot of the movements and a lot of the things that are going and that are being pushed, and it seems like it's supposed to help children, but it feels like it's growing them up too fast, and it feels like it's removing some of their innocence and exposing them to things a little too early. And I have 3 little girls, so it's really, really bothering me.
Okay. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Jessica. Angel.
Hi, I'm Angel Alexander. I just moved to Mundelein. And let's see, my hobbies, I like to paint and draw a lot. I also love to garden. My yard finally has a garden. So, and I used to be actually a farmer. I lived in Texas for a number of years. And so one of my burning issues, I guess, the main one is climate change. It's just such a complex issue, and it's a huge one. So I would say that that's my biggest burning issue.
Got it. Thank you so much. Lauren.
Sorry, it took me a minute to figure out how to unmute myself. Hello, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Oh my gosh, I thought it was morning. Hello, Tom. Thank you for being with us here today and for spending your time and taking your time out. I'm Lauren Mason. I'm from the western suburbs, specifically Bolingbrook. Some of my hobbies include anything involving nature. I can basically sit out there all day with unplugging from the computers and the cell phones, spending time with my mom and spending some quality time with family, and anything involving history, just documentaries, books, anything of that sort. And my burning issue would be workplace inequality, specifically for kind of like white collar positions and bigger corporation type of things, or even on a smaller scale, specifically for Black women in particular. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes. I'll be sharing some, I'm listening to everybody's issues, and we'll be sharing some resources as the class goes along for places and spaces that touch on some of those issues that you have been bringing up. Okay, awesome. Michael.
Hello, it's nice to be here with you, Tom. My name is Michael Williams. I actually live in Hammond, Indiana, in the Edison Park area. My hobbies include sports, almost anything related to sports. I'm a big basketball, American football, and sometimes a baseball fanatic at times. They really help me keep grounded, and they always remind me on how to work with teams. So it's always been a big thing for me. Some of my hobbies actually include coaching basketball for underage children. We usually work with the kids under 12 because they love to learn and we want to teach them. And I would say my biggest burning issues would be educational and economic injustice, because I feel like a lot of children, when they're being brought up, they are not given the education that they need to help them advance the right way. And that includes on an economical level as well. Not to mention just the differences that you run into when you are dealing with finances and the availability of jobs that give you a good living wage and knowing what to do with that.
Awesome, got it. That is in past classes, we've covered economic inequality quite in detail, but we're not actually touching on that extensively in this cycle. However, Michael, on the class website, which I put in the chat, you can avail yourself of a lot of resources. There's a lecture, and there's some other links that speak to that issue. Thank you. Now I'm going to say this right, Chafew. Correct me how I'm saying your name right.
Excuse me. It's Chafew.
Chafew. Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Chafew Scott. I'm from Chicago, Illinois, South Side, Woodlawn area. And my hobbies are writing, making music, writing, making music. Oh yeah, open mic. I like poetry sets, walking by the lakefront, any big body of water. So I enjoy that. My burning issue is drugs, both illegal and legal drugs, because of all of the violence and addiction and poverty that surrounds drugs. And I'm personally affected by that, and I'm sure that the world itself is affected by drugs all over, whether it be legal or illegal drugs. It's created a lot of dividends and violence within this city and abroad. So that's my main burning issue. So thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. Husseini, how about yourself?
The biggest issue that keeps me up at night is the school to prison pipeline.
Okay, school to prison pipeline. Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Isamar, how about you? Welcome.
Hi. Let's see. I currently live in Berwyn. My hobbies are reading and riding my bike. My burning issue would be racial injustice.
Got it. Thank you so much. Jamal, welcome.
Did you say Jamal?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. I was just saying, I heard Dara, so that's why I was just paused. Okay, so my name is Jamal Hussein, and I right now live in Lombard. And my hobbies are playing cricket, traveling. I love traveling. And the burning issue right now is, I think for me, it is breaking the nature in a lot of different ways, such as cutting trees. That we are cutting a lot of trees, then we are growing, and using a lot of shoppers, plastic, these all things, and throwing them to kill the fish and all the sea animals. So I think there's the burning issue for me right now.
Thank you. And Troy, our special guest. Troy, tell us a little bit about yourself, would you please? And you know, what you're fighting for right now, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, thanks for having me, everyone. My name is Troy Gaston. I'm a senior at Roosevelt University. Expect to be going into a PhD program after I graduate. I think I really want to wrap my energy around anthropology. My hobbies, I really can't say what my hobbies are because I'm constantly working, pulling from one place to another. But as I accept, I guess, the feedback that I get for personal care, I think I will associate my hobbies with spending time with my family because that's where I get all that knowledge and energy from. My main issue, I understand the issue of mass incarceration is one of our greatest issues, but I understand the displacement from community to disinvested communities really exacerbate the expansion of mass incarceration. So I really want to tackle the policies that construct disinvested communities.
Okay. The connection between the economy and the state of policing and mass incarceration. I think there's a through line with some of the concerns I think that the interns are expressing. I think we see they're related. And then Lauren, if you could turn on your, there you go, hello. Oh, I'm sorry, you already went. You moved. Well, okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for sharing. Now we will move into our presentation here. So I'll go back to the sharing of the screen and we continue. Okay, here we go. So Troy is maybe a little modest. This is a front page article from the Tribune from April 10th that featured him and his work, where it says, meet Troy Gaston, an activist protesting social justice on the front lines. I put the link to the article in the chat. I encourage you to grab it and download it. And then you guys can chat with each other offline, exchange emails if you wish. But I invited Troy to be a special member of our class because he said he was interested in nonprofits and how to start them. And that is one of the themes of our time together. So let us start our investigation of this thing called the nonprofit organization. It's a funny term, you have to admit, by describing what it isn't. It's a nonprofit. And I guess that gives you a hint in the direction of the distinction between nonprofits and other organizations. You can see this funny cartoon. I got it. We can start a midnight knitting program for youth. Perfect. We'll call it Knitted Together Against Violence. And you see people sitting around the table, knitting and chatting and meeting, coming up with this idea. And this idea of creating an organization or an effort or program. So notice that they're talking about knitting. That's actually something they're going to do, but maybe it's a funny cartoon, but you can imagine them maybe selling their scarves, using the money for some kind of good, or the skills that they'll teach the young people will keep them out of trouble. You can make up all kinds of funny ideas about this cartoon, but that essentially is at the heart of forming nonprofits. Now, a guy named Alex de Tocqueville from France traveled around America in the early 1830s, and he wrote a book called Democracy in America, published between 1835 and 1840. And basically, he was a very astute observer of the young country. And he's often quoted, his observations are often quoted by political scientists and historians, to give us a sense of what was going on back in the day as things were just getting started in this country. But this is what he said about our ability to associate. He said, Americans of all ages, all conditions, and all dispositions constantly form associations. Americans make associations to give entertainments, to found seminaries, to build inns, to construct churches, to diffuse books, to send missionaries. In this manner, they found hospitals, prisons, and schools. If it is proposed to inculcate some truth or foster some feeling by the encouragement of a great example, they form a society. Whether at the head of some new undertaking you see at the government in France, or a privileged person, a man of rank in England, but in the United States, you will find an association. In democratic countries, the science of association is the mother of science. The progress of all the rest depends upon the progress it has made. So let's unpack that observation. What the gentleman had observed is this propensity for Americans, for people in this country, to come together to discuss issues, to look at the world, and then to come together to do something about it. I'm not saying this is uniquely American. Obviously, it's a human thing, but it's something that is at the heart of our country. This ability to associate, exchange ideas, bring resources together, and go and do stuff. And the other thing that he notices here is, if you were talking about who gets to do that sort of thing in France, it would be the government, or in this case, I guess this is 1830s, this would be the king, or a man of rank in England. So he's saying the privileged class in England are the people who start stuff in that country. But in this country, he said, it's just folks like us, people on this call. That's where this work starts. In Illinois, the spirit is strong. Last year, over almost 3 million Illinois residents volunteered their time. So I guess that is probably one of the words that we're going to, spend some time a little talking about, is essentially when people are coming together to solve a problem, they're essentially volunteering their time. I mean, this is not their job. People are forming associations and entities to do things away from their job. This is like on top of their family life and on top of their job. The estimation that the amount of money that this volunteer time is worth is almost $5 billion. So I want to open the floor up right now and ask people why they volunteer. Why do you people volunteer? I'll stop sharing and ask folks why they share. And you can just unmute yourself.
I just want to tell you that we didn't see what you were sharing, but also I volunteer just because I simply like helping people. I like to make people happy, and when you volunteer to help people, they are appreciative most times, and some people just don't know how to ask for help. So when you volunteer to help, it's just like you're, lifting the weight off their shoulders.
Awesome. Why do you volunteer?
Well, I know I like to volunteer because I also like to help teach. I like to help people to become the best version of themselves. And anytime I feel that I can help enhance somebody's ability to learn something or just to grow in a positive manner, I feel like it's a great thing. I was always taught that we should help others so that they can become better. So I like to continue that and pay it forward.
Pay it forward. Oh, pay it forward. Now that's a great term. Can you explain a little bit what you mean by that, Michael?
Well, there are certain things I've excelled at in my life. So the things I excelled at, I've always felt that it's better to give so that way somebody can take what I've learned and they can actually learn it and improve upon it. And anytime they can improve upon it, then it actually goes even farther, whether it's teaching a young person something as simple as riding a bike or helping my son understand the way credit works so that he can control his economic well-being in the future.
So let me see if I can rephrase that and tell you if you agree. You got helped, so you're going to help others.
Yep.
Right. And now, do you have to do that?
No, I don't.
No.
But I think it's the right thing to do.
Right. And can I make you do that?
Not at all.
Okay. So this is, I think now it sounds simple, but I think it's a profound observation that you have to have the heart to want to, right? I can't make Michael coach the basketball team, right? I can show him the sign, I can give him a flyer, right? I can bug him, I can say, Mike, come on, you're a great athlete, dude, come on, but there's really nothing I can do to compel him. I can suggest, I could like coach myself, like, hey, watch me do a layup. And, I could like embarrass myself or inspire him. I could try all kinds of tactics, right? But unless Michael feels the compulsion to serve, it's not going to go anywhere, right? So underneath what I'd like to just point out, and it sounds obvious, underneath this thing we're speaking about is the desire to serve. Okay. Anyone else want to share a volunteer experience? Why volunteer?
I volunteer because I do enjoy it, but I also want my children to experience that and to learn to give. Even though we cannot make people, I believe that we all have a responsibility to help each other. It's part of what makes the world work, is that you're not doing it by yourself.
Awesome. So again, this idea of modeling, right? You lead by example, that we are not alone. Again, it sounds pretty trite, sounds pretty self-evident, but actually it is not. And it's a key belief at the Civic Lab and of my civic practice, that is, we must understand we're in this together. I guess you can argue like, no, I'm just by myself with my family, leave me alone, I'm good, but I think there's enough science, there's enough evidence, there's enough lived experience to make the statement that we are in the world together. And that is a part of this work. Other reasons why to volunteer?
Yeah, I personally just volunteer because it makes me feel better, makes me feel good to be able to help. It's a personal pleasure that I get from it. And pretty much like what Michael said, I just feel like it's the right thing to do. Is I feel like life without purpose is no life at all. So just feel like it's only natural for your purpose to be out here to love, to help, and that's why I volunteer.
Whoa. Can you say a little bit more about that? Life without purpose is no life at all. Please elaborate.
Yeah, just on a personal level, there's been times in my life where I started feeling like I was helpless, worthless, and it was only because I felt like I had lost weight or lost sense of my purpose, and so that's where helping other people came in at, and it always made me feel better. Um, and I just started feeling like, just asking myself, what are my hands here to do? Like, why do I have hands? Why do I have feet? Where am I supposed to go? And just asking myself those type of questions, and it brought me to that conclusion that it's a worthless life if you don't have a purpose, if you're not going anywhere, if you don't know what you are. Like we're human beings, so that means we're supposed to be. And so yeah, I just started asking those type of questions, existential questions, and it brought me to that conclusion that it's just only natural to love and to help. I don't see anything else that I could be here for.
Awesome. I mean, again, thank you for sharing that. That is some deep talking right there, right from the heart. Okay. And that is a very true thing. What is your purpose in life? And that's why I'm asking people, what do you stand for? What are you going to fight for? As at the heart of our exercise together as we work through these classes. That is awesome stuff. There is an African term called Ubuntu, which means I am because you are. It's a cultural belief. It's a life practice in many places in Africa and other places, in which it basically says, I can't be by myself. The person I am is a result of the community I'm embedded in, and my family and my community. So I am because you are, which is the opposite of sort of the classic American, cowboy image of everybody's on their own, kind of rugged individualism, which is a thing too, that some people believe and hold dear to them. But this idea of we're in it together, I am because you are, is a belief system, and I think it's an important one to recognize. I am because you are. Any other thoughts about volunteerism before we move on? I really appreciate you guys sharing. Anybody else would like to say anything about volunteering? Why do you give up your time to help people you don't even know?
I would say like building a sense of community, and just giving back to your community, I think is really important.
Right. And so by moving outside of your immediate sphere, by being in relationships, say at the community center or the basketball field, or those other public spaces where you would go to volunteer and be of service, you are reaching out into that larger world, and you're learning about it, and they're learning about you. And as some people said, it's actually pleasurable. It makes you feel good. You're giving up something, you might say. You're giving up your private time that you could be spending with your family, or making money, right? You could be out there working more hours than you are. So you give up something, but you get something back in this exchange. All right, that's awesome. I really appreciate those insights. Go back to sharing the screen, bringing back the PowerPoint. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the basics of the nonprofit sector. So when we say that there is something called the nonprofit sector, we have to put it in a context with the other parts of our society. So we say there are three sectors when we're talking about this broad civic work. One is the government. That is one sector. The second sector would be called the for-profit community, the business community, the commercial sector. And the third is this thing called the nonprofit sector, or sometimes it's called the independent sector. You may have heard that term, or not for profits. It's the same thing. So I recognize them with these three little symbols. Now we're going to break into small groups right now. I'm going to ask the system to just break us into 3 groups. I'm going to keep myself out of the groups, and we're going to send you into the small groups for 10 minutes. And we're going to send you to the jam boards that we have set up online, and those will be put into chat. When you get to the jam boards, you will be working with the jam board of your group. So group 1, you are looking at government. Group 2, you're looking at for-profits, and group 3, you're looking at nonprofits. And the jam board is already populated, so all you have to do is start writing the little sticky notes, as you'll see in just a minute. But this is what we want you to reflect on. What are some examples of this sector? So give me some examples. What is the product of this sector? What does this sector do or make? Who are the users of this sector? Again, throw the little sticky notes up. There's no right or wrong answers. Who delivers the service of the sector? So who is actually providing the service? How is the service paid for? Again, in each of these instances. And the last thing I'd like you to comment on the jam boards is, how do you change it? There's specific ways that you actually can institute change in each of the 3 sectors. Okay. So here is the link to the chat. I'll stop the sharing. Go back to the shared space. And here is the link to our jam boards right here. So first, before you click off to the jam boards, I'm going to ask the system to break us into the 3 groups. And when you're in your group, you'll see the jam board, and I'm going to share my screen just briefly once again. So you'll see what you're heading into. Okay, so what you'll see are 3 screens, one for government, one for for-profits, and one for nonprofits. So that's where you're going to go, depending on what group you're in. Here's the examples. Here are the things I want you to look at, and you'll create a sticky note by clicking on the little sticky note thing, bringing up a sticky note and saying, here's an example. So you just fill it out like that, and you can just position it right there. You can make it whatever color you want. You can actually even upload images here if you want. You're feeling especially creative. Okay, so that's what you're going to do in just a moment. First, I will now send you into your small groups. Okay, welcome back. I was checking the Zoom boards, and you guys are right in the right space. Really appreciate this good work. Now let's have a report back. One person from each group. Tell us where your heads were at. What did you come up with? Starting with group 1, government.
Yeah, so government sector, we just put the 3 branches of government, executive, legislative, and judicial, you know, so they make the laws and carry out the laws. And so yeah, basically that leads to products, the legal system, the Constitution. Kind of ran out of time on that one, but then the users, I guess, would be like us, the general public, and the lawmakers. So people who put those laws into effect. And then who delivers it? It would be like, you know, police or any kind of government official. And then it's paid for by different taxes from the general public.
Right.
And how it's changed, we put voting.
Awesome. Well, that you just gave us a complete lecture right there, helping to understand this major sector. So let's review. To paraphrase, the product would be democracy, would be the general services like public education. That's a service, right? Would you agree? Public transportation, these things that we consume. Walking on the street, who made the street, right? The streets. So that's kind of the product, if you will. Yeah, and we're the consumers, us, the people who live here. We are quote unquote consuming, if you will, if that's the way to talk about it, using the laws, using the streets, using the libraries, etc. And yes, right, the people who do it are your lawmakers, your legislators. They can fashion the system, but who delivers it? Yeah, like you said, the police, the librarian, the teacher, the garbage person, the lifeguard at the beach, these people who work for the public. And then, yes, you're paid for by taxes, paid for by us. You live in a certain place, Chicago, Burbank, California, wherever, the taxes of the federal government, the state, and the city are partly how you pay for it. There are also fees, right? You get a parking ticket, that's a fee. Excellent. And how do you change it? Voting, pretty much. Though we can also have a larger conversation about how you might do other things in civic engagement. There's public actions, there's protests, there's boycotts, there's influencing policy. But yes, at the end of the day, that's how it works. Awesome, group one. All right, group two, for profits. What do you got?
All right, so we chose excuse my background. My children are enjoying themselves. So we just went with a company. We figured that would be the easiest way to describe a for-profit model, and we went with Best Buy for the products. They sell so many. We just went with electronics, and then we know that they also have Geek Squad. The users, it's anybody who relies on technology, because surprisingly, there are a few people who still don't think it's such a big deal. Who delivers it? We know the technical assistants deliver the Geek Squad service, and manufacturers, and whatever people are using whatever they're using, deliver the electronics. It's paid for by us, the consumers pay for everything. And how it would be changed if we weren't so reliant on tech for this, then there wouldn't be a Best Buy.
Let's take a look at the differences between the insights between groups 1 and 2. Group 2 say, let's look at a specific store, and what they're selling are products. Now, this happens, you picked a store that's selling a lot of electronics. It's got your TVs, your computers, cameras, etc. So Best Buy, I can also get a washing machine there. But these are physical products mostly. But you also pointed out the Geek Squad, which is not so much a thing as it is a service. So if I go to Best Buy and I buy a plasma TV and it breaks down, I can go back and say, okay, could you help me fix this? Or can you repair it? Or did I install it improperly? And I'm paying for that. I'm paying for the, well, if I just walk in there and ask him for it, will he just give it to me? She said,
no.
She said, no, no. I can put it on credit maybe, but you said it's paid for by the consumers. Now, again, it sounds so simple on the face of it, but there's a lot of meaning here. So Best Buy cannot give me that plasma TV. Right? Can't do it. I have to pay for the TV. Now, am I paying just for the cost of the TV, or is there some profits involved in there? You can unmute, Jessica.
There's a markup with it, yeah,
Right.
definitely.
Right. So again, if we wanted to break that down, we could say, well, how much did it cost to build that plasma TV? Like, go to the plant in I don't know, Tokyo, wherever it's made, and you could say, like, well, there's only like $100 worth of stuff in this 50-inch TV. Really, I mean, it's the plastic and it's the circuitry, and there's a battery, and there's a screen. But if you add it all up, it's like $100, not even. But they're selling it for 500. What's that about? Well, it's this point that you made, it's profit. So I got to pay my workers. I got to pay the overhead of keeping I got to pay the overhead for the store. I got to pay for the marketing. Like, how did you find out about it? Well, you saw it in the Sunday Tribune. There was an ad, right? Okay. So the price of that television has to include all that and a little more, so that if you are the owner of Best Buy, you make a good profit. So who owns Best Buy? Do we know? Well, is it a publicly owned company? I think it is. So the shareholders own it. So you, Jessica, could right now, this minute, log on to a stock company, like a broker's company, and for whatever. In fact, could somebody like to Google the current stock share of Best Buy and put it in the chat? Anybody? Google it and put it in the chat. And what that is going to tell you, say it's $100. I don't know what it is, but say it's $100. That means that Jessica could buy one share of Best Buy at $100, and now she's a co-owner, isn't she? A tiny owner, right? And if Jessica bought 1 million shares, she would be a significant owner, and they would have to listen to her, in her set, what she 126.53. Okay, so for that amount of money, you could get a tiny share of the company Best Buy. And if you did any more research, you could probably find out there are institutional investors, there are large hedge funds, there could be many other players involved in who actually owns the majority of the stock of Best Buy. But the key point here is it's possible to own it. It is owned. All right. Cool. And the final insight that you had, Team 2, was very simple, but again, powerful. To change the behavior by not buying anymore. I changed my behavior. Like, I am boycotting cell phones. I am throwing away my televisions. I am trying to go back to the nature, or whatever it is. So you change your behavior, and that's how you change Best Buy. Or you ask them to stock something, you're a customer, and you say, why aren't you carrying this thing, whatever, and you ask, or you demand, and they want to please you, so they will carry that item. But by and large, you ever heard the term voting with your feet? So the consumer will vote with their feet by denying or applying their purchasing power to the products that they wish to support. So there could be two competing companies, Best Buy and Tom's electronics store, side by side. And you decide that you want to support my business, and you buy your TV by me. Troy Gaston opens up his store down by where he lives, and it's a minority owned store. And you say, you know what, I'm going to vote with my feet. I'm going to give Troy my business. And I'm going to go to Troy. I'm going to give him my business, and I want him to hold my money when I buy my product. So these are the kinds of decisions you can make as a consumer. Excellent. All right. Save the best for last. Group 3, nonprofits. What do you got?
This is Mohammed. So we got examples, which are food pantries, Boy Scouts, Salvation Army, the Big Brothers, the Big Sisters, Girl Scouts, YCMA, and Ignore Relief. Now, these are all organizations that serve communities, different communities around the US, and one's international, which is Dicey and Air Relief. The products are technical education, access to public access, recreational services, and like publication of resources, the packed foods, clothing, stuff like that.
Mhm.
Now, I would still say that technical education is still a product because it still comes under like products and services. So, for example, books in that matter. Now, the way it's paid for is mostly with donations, time, and labor. And the users are basically the general public, third world countries, people in need, different communities. So that's really depending on the fact that who is in need of that service or product.
Mm.
Now, who delivers it are the social workers, the volunteers, and organizers. Lastly, how has it changed? It's changed depending on the general public's need and also based on the cost. So when we talk about cost, it also affects like the cost of labor, the cost of the time people are putting in, and obviously like the actual cost in terms of money.
Mm-hmm. You guys, hit him on the head. Hit the nail on the head. Boom, boom, boom. Excellent. Yes. Now we're beginning to see some major distinctions here. Using the Boy Scouts or some of these other large examples that you brought up, you are delivering a service. So you can say, what does the Boy Scout do? Well, you learn leadership, you learn skill, you have fun, you're doing things after school so you don't get in trouble. So you can say that is recreation. You can say it's a little bit of education happening there. I learn things when I go to my Boy Scout class. I learn how to make a fire. I learn how to build make a tent or whatever, or to live outside, or many other things that I might do. You said, how is it paid for? By donations. Yes, a critical thing. So would I donate money to Best Buy?
No.
That doesn't make any sense. I buy something at Best Buy, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm buying something. It doesn't quite line up that I'm buying something from the Boy Scouts. You might use the term, but it doesn't quite fit. But I donate to the Boy Scouts because I like what they do. And yes, the Boy Scouts could charge a fee too, couldn't they? So that does happen. And that does happen, but we'll see something very important about that. And you also said labor. I can volunteer. And again, we just talked about volunteerism and why that's so important. But would I go to work at Best Buy as a volunteer? Like I'm going to show up and sweep their floors? That's crazy.
That would be bad for you.
Right. It doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to volunteer my labor at the local pizzeria, unless it's my uncle who's working there. And but I will volunteer for the Boy Scouts. I will volunteer for groups that we're speaking of. And as we went back to the first part of our class together, the spirit of volunteerism is very strong in America and has always been so. All right, this is super excellent, you guys. Now I'm going to go back to sharing my screen and share with you some of these distinctions in a little more detail that you've already hit on really quite completely. All right, the scope of nonprofits includes quite a few players: universities, schools, hospitals, daycare centers, social service providers, arts organizations like museums, like the Art Institute downtown, or the theater that you like to go to, or the YMCA that was mentioned, environmental organizations like Greenpeace and Save the Whales, and many, many others. And they are formally recognized under the Internal Revenue Code as what is known as 501c3 organizations. Those are a special class of nonprofits. And they do many things. They provide service. They reinforce and make culture happen. They advocate and they educate. They address faith and spiritual needs. So anyone here who's a member of a church or a faith institution, that's a nonprofit. Nonprofits provide health. They provide housing. They train people and employ people. They do many, many other things. Now, what is the mission of these organizations. The mission is the key feature when we're talking about nonprofits. We say a nonprofit is driven by mission and not by the desire to make money. So this word mission is something we're going to talk about in some detail in our next class. But let's just say this: nonprofits exist to serve a mission. Again, this idea of service, to respond to a situation or an opportunity that has not been addressed. I think, Mohammed, you said something, the nonprofit world will change. I think more or less you said when things change, when there's new needs, when there's a new problem or something happens, like there's a disaster, you didn't need help, but there's a flood in your community. Now you need help. So all of a sudden the Red Cross will come there, or some other thing will happen to help you when that happens. Nonprofits serve constituents that are left unserved by the first and second sectors, by the government or the nonprofit sectors. It's the mission of the nonprofit that provides the meaning and direction of the nonprofit organization, as well as its uniqueness. So what is the mission of Icy Stars? Anyone can unmute and to put it into chat. What is the mission of Icy Stars?
To educate the leaders of this next generation in the technical field.
Okay, let me go up there, yes, to get my chat back. Okay, any other, so the mission of Icy Stars, say that again.
It is to educate the leaders in the tech field while diversifying it.
Diverse, while making it more diverse.
Yep.
Got it. Are we in agreement with that? Does that sound pretty good? Anybody want to add, maybe add to it, or add another layer to it?
Like I put in the chat too, is also to help provide opportunities for those who normally don't have the opportunity. A lot of issues that you can normally get, you can't normally get schooling or have the option of getting to certain types of businesses, and it opens the door for you.
So this idea of access,
yes,
is you could say that's one of the essential components of Icy Stars. It's very intentional, right? And so is there another mission to Icy Stars? You hit upon it. There's something else going on here.
To also to help diversify areas in business and tech that, again, are not normally diverse.
Yep. And what about creating 1,000 leaders? Was that something that you were told about? Okay. Yep. Yeah, it's to create new leaders. But who are going to do what? Leaders who are going to do what? You're going to get a job. Yes, that's pretty much.
Make opportunities for others.
Yes. Make opportunities for others.
I was going to say, pay it forward.
Yes, that's right. So we will pause for a moment to reflect on the mission of Icy Stars. You are the product of Icy Stars, are you not? I can't. And so I, Tom Tresser, you know, I could send Sandy $100, you know, to support the mission of Icy Stars. But what am I getting? You're not going to come to my house and fix my computer, are you? No. I'm buying into this notion that is a meritorious thing, that we need leaders of color from different communities that have not been represented in business and technology and who are not present in the workforce in leadership ways, that is desirous, and that you should make a good living and prosper. That is desirous, but it's also desirous that you go on and continue this idea of paying it forward as leaders, wherever you land. If you land in this company or that company, or if you're in Chicago or Baltimore, wherever your life takes you, but that you'll still continue to have that spirit of paying it forward. I would put it to you that that is the product of Icy Stars. Okay, and that is what Sandy and her colleagues thought of over 30 years ago, believe it or not, that a person had a thought that there was a need for this to happen, and it wasn't there, right? If it was there, she wouldn't have had to do it. If there were people of color moving into the business and tech world in a robust manner, in an appropriate manner, we wouldn't need it. So she saw the need with her eyes and her heart and said, this ain't right. Wait, what's going on here? You know, there's a sense of that, right? Like there's something missing. And I would put it to you that at most people would then leave it there. Like you observe something that isn't right, that isn't correct, that needs fixing. And most people just go, well, that's too bad. You know, what am I going to do about it? But again, there's a spirit in America that says, wait a minute, I am going to do something about it. Now, if you could go back and meet Sandy Kessel 30 years ago, she was a teaching artist. There was nothing really in the cards that would say she's going to be the leader that's going to make this happen. But she didn't have to be. She just had the spirit in her and the brains and the ability to talk to other people and to make them see what she saw. Right? I see something, I'm concerned, I get agitated, right? But it's just inside me, it doesn't go very far. I got to convince you. I got to talk to some other folks and get them excited, right? And that's the start of Icy Stars. And if you go back far enough, every nonprofit, no matter how big, will have that same origin story. Okay, this is good. Now, let's continue on with our discussion here. Okay. So we're getting the sense of the distinctions of nonprofits. You can always refer back to Icy Stars if you're wondering how it works. So again, the mission of Icy Stars, I think you've articulated it very well, and that is at the heart of everything that happens at Icy Stars. So here are other aspects that I think it's important to dwell on. For one, this mission-driven idea that we're not here to make a bunch of money. It's really not that kind of idea. We're not making iPhones at Icy Stars. We're not making pizza pies and selling them. We are creating something in over time that lives in your hearts and in your heads and in your hands. And you will be reminded you are cycle 48, which means that there were 47 groups of younger people like yourselves who have come before you. So the mission is driving the organization, and you're meeting these needs, these unmet needs. You can make revenue. Icy Stars can certainly get grants. It gets a lot of grants. You are not paying for your internship. I believe you're being paid, but it's certainly possible for someone to say, yeah, well, I can afford to give you $100 or $500. That's not how it works, but it certainly could happen. But the revenue that Icy Stars makes, if they make more money than they spend, we don't call that a profit. Again, it's just not quite appropriate. But you can say that we have raised revenue in excess of our budget. We have raised our revenue in excess of our expenses. And unlike a for-profit, we don't take that money and just give it to Sandy Kestrel, right? She doesn't own it. The money has to go back into the organization. So if an organization makes more money than it spends, it's simply put back into the organization. It's not paid out as a dividend because of the next feature. no one owns IC Stars. Is that a little weird to think about it? Who owns the Boy Scouts? Who owns your church? Who owns Harvard University? You might say that the board of directors, of which IC Stars has, they serve without pay and they kind of represent the community, which you might say is the true owner of IC Stars or any nonprofit. And that your board of directors act as stewards. They want to keep the organization alive and functional and true to its mission, and they stand for the community. So I invite you, when this class is over, to go to IC Star's website and to look at who are the directors, the board of directors of this organization. And you might, maybe you've met some of them already through the T's, and maybe you'll meet some more. I know we're going to meet the chairman of the board in 2 sessions. But those of you who may even serve on boards, I didn't actually ask you, but if anyone is on a board of a nonprofit, please put that in a chat. I think we should know that. It's the board of directors that is really the stewards of the organization to go into the future. Now, final point here that I want to make about nonprofits, and that is having to do with the revenue. The people who use the service of a nonprofit do not pay the full cost of that service. So in the case of IC Stars, you guys are using the service and are paying nothing. In fact, you're being paid. Unlike Best Buy, you cannot consume the TV there or cell phone there. You must pay 100%. You can't like, oh, I'll just pay you half of the cell phone. You know, that's all I got today. You can buy it on credit, but you have to buy it. So let's look at the sources of revenues for nonprofits. You already mentioned one, donations. So if I donate money to a 501c3, I can deduct that under the proper regulations from my income tax. But IC Stars as a nonprofit can also get grants from corporations and foundations and even government. Governments have grants that you can apply for. Now, you don't automatically get it. You have to go through a competitive process, and there are guidelines. So a foundation like the MacArthur Foundation might have a program for technology leadership, which IC Stars would apply for and say, hey, we make a very good case. We should receive money from your program. But you also can do services. So IC Stars may consult with other nonprofits or with businesses and receive compensation for providing expertise. IC Stars could produce perhaps a training manual, right? How to train young people to be technology leaders. I can imagine a book, I can imagine a CD, or I can imagine a website where people could go and learn a little bit about what you're learning, right? And they could charge a fee for that, and that would be another source of revenue. You could put on a fundraiser like this organization does every year, and hopefully in the future you will attend as alumni. And you can get a contract. Again, the government could say, yes, we want to hire IC Stars to teach people in the government about this thing called diversity in STEM education, and so we will compensate you with that contract. So those are ways that we can make money as a nonprofit. Now, different kinds of nonprofits get revenue in various proportions. So what this chart shows are the several sections of the nonprofit community: education, arts and recreation, healthcare, social services, and civic and other. In the turquoise, you'll see the percentage of the revenue that comes from fees. Okay, so in the case of education, like a college, a private college or a public college, of the revenue, 72% of the revenue from a college or place of education is coming from the fees, which would be tuition. And in the space of healthcare, it's 47%. So this is absolutely a key distinction. And what I said before is the people who use a nonprofit service may pay something for it. And in the case of going to school, you may actually pay quite a bit, but it's never 100% of what it costs to operate the operation, to operate the organization. Is that clear? Are there any questions so far? Anything that needs to be clarified up to now? Just unmute and jump right in. I can't see you because I'm sharing. I'm doing the screen share with the presentation. So if you have a question, just jump right in. Hearing none, we move forward. So the key distinction of all nonprofit organizations is they provide services to people who do not pay the full cost of providing those services, and in many cases, the users pay nothing at all. All right. How big is this sector in the last few minutes of our time for this class? It's actually very, very large. So in America right now, there are over 1.4 million 501c3 nonprofits. And that breaks down, as you can see on the right. Arts and culture, humanities, about 120,000. Education, about 184,000, and so forth. If I had to classify where IC Stars itself stands, I would put them here. So I would say IC Stars is one of 184,000 organizations, excluding colleges, that are delivering educational service in America at this time. Again, how big is this? Well, in 2018, over $427 billion was donated and given to nonprofits to do the jobs that we're speaking of. And this is where the money has come from. 68% of that money has come from individuals, over $292 billion. So America is fairly generous in this regard. We're not the most generous country in the world, but we're pretty generous. So individual people just like you and me, have reached into our own pockets and give $292 billion in the year 2018 to nonprofits to do their job. So where does the money go? Well, the number one recipient of donations are our churches, our religious institutions. Our faith-based institutions receive about $125 billion. So you think of yourself, if you are someone who goes to a church or a faith-based institution, you know that sometimes there's tithing, or they pass the pot there, and you put some money in there, and you may donate in other ways. So faith-based institutions is the number one place that get funding, followed by education. So IC Stars will be very much in that same camp. When you graduate from this wonderful program in short order, guess what? You're going to be asked to help pay the freight for the next cycle. So you'll probably get an email or some other communication saying, hey, why don't you join our alumni group? And of course, we hope that you do so. Human Services is the third biggest recipient of about $52 billion and so forth. So that's how we raise the money and spend the money across the country in terms of the nonprofit sector. In the state of Illinois, it's also quite a large sector. We've got over 60,000 nonprofits in here. About 37,000 are the 501c3s. But the churches don't really have to report to the government. So this is an underestimate. Churches do not have to file with the government. So there are probably many more religious institutions, faith-based institutions that simply don't have to report, but they're doing their work. And you can see that this sector in Illinois employs almost 500,000 people. or 11% of all the workers in this state of Illinois. And they generate about $110 billion in annual revenue. And they hold assets of almost 292 billion. And Illinoisans, again, following the pattern in the larger country, we give about $8 billion a year in charity. So the people of Illinois are giving from their pockets about $8 billion a year. And I conclude our presentation for today with this quote from Margaret Mead, who says, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that has." So that is the brief introduction to nonprofits. Are there any comments or thoughts about this material? Does it make sense? It landed?
Yes, it did.
Okay. Now, here's the place where we're going with our sessions. You will be tasked with creating your own nonprofit. In our final session, which is in early June, the schedule is again online. You're going to be given about 5 or 6 minutes each, and you will be telling us the name and purpose of your nonprofit organization, where it lives. So you got to put it in a specific place, hopefully in your community, but it doesn't have to be. It has to be someplace really specific. And you're going to be telling us what it's about, like what is the problem? What's this? What is the thing that it's trying to address? Again, it's attached to your burning issue. And what is it doing? So again, if you were imagining that exercise for IC Stars, you could vocalize what IC Stars is doing, where it's located, for whom it's doing it. And we're going to ask you to think about 5 people who are alive right now in America who you'd put on your board. So that's going to be your final presentation. And the instructions, or I guess you could say the requirements will be on your web page over the Civic Labs Civic headquarters, where your classwork is located. And I'll just put that link in the chat for you, just so you'll have it. So this is a Google shared document. And here's the link. So if you click on that link, you'll go to a document, you can download it, and it'll give you your instructions. And we'll spend some time at the beginning of the next class to make sure everybody is comfy with it. Okay, that's all I got for you today. We have a few minutes left if anybody has any comments. We covered a lot of ground, so please, any comments or thoughts? All right, very good then. We'll let you go a little early. I would say that you have an opportunity as well to get to know Troy a little better if you want, by connecting with him and finding out what he's trying to set up with his nonprofit. And you can also be of service to Troy in addition to building your own nonprofit. But that's it for now. We'll see you 1 week from today, same Zoom link, to continue our journey in understanding how nonprofits work for social change. In the meantime, please, everyone, stay safe and be well.